Dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Salvador Simó. I am the adjunct director of the Mental Health Chair at the University of Vic, Central University of Catalonia, and also I'm leading the research group about mental health and social innovation. Our main focus is the social determinants of health, working with populations with special needs as refugees, for example, or people with mental health problems, Alzheimer, communities facing poverty. And it's my huge privilege to be here today to share with you some reflections about Photovoice. So, maybe some of you are already familiar with the Photovoice. Why we need techniques as Photovoice? Because as Emmanuel Mounier, the personalist philosopher, said, it's very important to combine the cycles of action, reflection, especially working with populations with special needs or in difficult circumstances. He compared this movement of action and reflection with the human heart, the systolic and diastolic movement. And I think it's really a beautiful metaphor about the need to combine both powerful interventions with research and with a strong evaluation to ensure that we are achieving the results we want to with the communities we have the privilege to work. So when we think about different research paradigms, of course, normally we are always thinking about the positivist paradigm. It's more based on measuring, it's more quantitative, and it's needed. We are always developing mixed research, and we have always one part that's quantitative methodology, but we always include especially the qualitative paradigm and the qualitative research, I want to say, and the paradigm, for example, we include the hermeneutic paradigm that, as you know, is close to phenomenological paradigm. This paradigm is about our capacity to understand the complex human reality. I mean, when you think about people who are under refugee migrant circumstances, people dealing with poverty, people dealing with mental health issues, this is really complex. Human beings, we are unique, we're amazing, we are complex beings. So this paradigm is about our capacity to understand this human complexity and how we do it. We need to listen. To listen is very important because so many times as academia, we measure, we evaluate, we pass this test and that test, but we are not listening. And one example is that we did a research with people who tried to commit suicide, and it was the first qualitative research ever done, because always the research has been more about genetics, more about quantitative measures, but nobody had the idea before just to sit down and to listen to the people. Just ask what factors caused your decision to try to kill yourself, but especially what we wanted to understand was what factors help you to continue and give your life meaning? What helps you to keep on living? We wanted to search this Papageno effect. So, as you know, as you see, to listen is very important. And I think today it's not enough to talk from this positivistic and also this hermeneutic paradigm. Today is extremely important also to include this critic paradigm. The main purpose of research of academia is to improve the quality of life of people, to increase well-being, to increase social participation, to increase the social wealth. I mean, we are in a difficult times, as you know. We're facing the war, we're facing the climate change, we are facing so many challenges, and it's part of life. We know that. But academia needs strongly to answer these challenges and to contribute to society. So it's not just about publishing research in the most prestigious journals. is about having real impact in real life of people, especially in our fields of well-being and social participation. So I really believe that we need to include this critic paradigm because, as Mark said, our goal is not just to understand reality, it's to make it better. And especially when we work from this paradigm, our main purpose is social transformation and to improve the situation to life of the people we work with. And we depart from always the belief about the human dignity. We cannot negotiate about this. Human dignity, human rights is in the core concept of this paradigm. So as I mentioned, I welcome you to combine this positivistic with the hermeneutic and the critic paradigm. And one of the techniques that you can use, especially when we want to do this qualitative research, one powerful technique is Photovoice. Photographs is just to ask people to ask photos or videos about the reality we want to make research about. So Photovoice believes that nobody should be denied the right to speak out and to be heard. Why? Because Photovoice is a special technique that we are using to ensure that everybody can participate in research. So many times we want to do semi-structured interviews, we want to do focus groups if we are thinking about qualitative research. We have some measurement tools that are not easy to answer because they are complex. So we wanted to look for techniques that are easier for people to use to ensure they can speak by themselves. And this is very important. So many times academia, we have been talking for people and we need to listen to people. So for people who have any kind of cognitive, emotional, or any other circumstances that make difficult for them to express verbally, for example, Photovoice is a very powerful technique. You know, it's a way to help people to tell their history. So why we use Photovoice? First of all, because we want to ensure that everybody can participate in the research. We ensure that all the voices are present. And we are going to do asking people not just a photo or a video, also a narrative telling about this photo or this video, as you will see later. So there is a narrative that goes with the photo and the video, but the most important part is the photo. And what's the photo about? It's about the research question. Tell me about how it's the life of refugees. Tell me about how do you perceive a stigma when you have a mental health problems. Tell me about how do you experience the difficulties about job inclusion, whatever. So we ask photos or videos related to the research question. And why we do photos? Because photos, their rewards of taking photos are immediate. It's not that we take a photo today and 3 months later we see the results. So we are now with digital cameras, so it's just, we do it, we see it. It's fun, it's creativity. Humans being, we are creative beings, so it's a very creative technique. Oh, it's very important because taking photographs or videos can change participant perception about their social and physical environment, because so many times we walk around places, but we don't really look at the places or we don't reflect about the situation. So when we have to do a photo or a video reflecting about one situation, we really stop, see, analyze, reflect. So we get awareness about aspects that before were not clear for us. Of course, basic photography, almost everybody can do it. And as you know the expression, a picture is worth than 1,000 words. And images can be understood regardless of language, culture, and other factors. For example, working with refugees, this is extremely important because we are working with people with so many different ethnic backgrounds. And so it's a very powerful technique for social denounce, because you can say the reality is not good and people can say you are exaggerating, but when you should have the photos and you show the photos, that shows the reality. So it's a good and powerful way to denounce social injustices. So it's a powerful way for social transformation to make a denounce in front of policymakers. So normally when you use Photovoice, we are working in this paradigm that's more related to hermeneutics. We want to listen, we want to understand, critic, we want to transform reality, but especially we are also developing research strategies as participatory action research. What we want to give people the main protagonists in the research process. That's, we say, participatory. So it's very important to ensure that they can speak by themselves. So the goals of Photovoice are to provide a voice for those who have none, to instill critical consciousness, and to influence policy makers and policies. That's very, very important if we want to have real impact in the life of people. And who are some of the target groups? You see, almost everybody can do it, that can do a photo or video, and that's meaningful for them, is for them. So it's very general technique. The exclusion criteria will be people who don't like, don't want, don't know how to make a photo or video. But especially it's very important, we can use this technique in groups like refugee or migrant communities, children and young in difficult circumstances, homeless, adults and families, people with mental health or physical disabilities, chronic diseases, medical conditions, members of racial, ethnic, language, religious, cultural minorities, people who are discriminated, people that live in difficult circumstances. So they are especially very sensitive technique to use with these groups, because we really need to work for social change and to transform and to improve their life, creating a more inclusive, healthier, and sustainable community. How we do it? It's a participatory, it's a collaborative process. So the most important when we do the Photovoice, of course, we need the cameras and we need to train the people. To train today people to take photos, especially that now everybody, almost everybody, a lot of people has smartphones. Normally it's not needed. So it's more training about security conditions. For example, always you must ensure your security during the photos. We have listened about stories people wanted to take the amazing selfies that they have just accidents because they were doing the very risky places. So it's about security and it's about the protection of the right images of people. So we cannot start taking photos to everybody without asking permission. So if we want to take photos of somebody else, we need permission. Sometimes we need writing permission. So the training is more about security and also to protect the rights of the people to their intimacy. So we cannot take photos to everybody without permission. That's the kind of things we have to really train people about. And they need support, especially support that the important is not the quality, the artistic quality. We are not looking for a Franz Lantin, we are not looking for Sebastián Salgado's photos. We are looking for people, the photos who really, or videos who really express the reality. It's about expression, it's about that, it's not about the quality. It's not a 9 to 10 photo, 10 to 10 photo, it's the quality what we are looking. This is very important. And of course, this is amazing because when we have the photos, apart from having a research technique that can gain knowledge about the circumstances, the perceptions of people. For example, we can do a final photo exhibition of one project, and we can just show the photos at the community we are working with in the city we are working, or we can do a photo online. So we have so many amazing possibilities with this technique. So if we are using it, we can do in a simple way. We can ask, for example, children participating in a project, like for example, children who are refugees, to take a photo or video and tell me how's your life in the refugee camp, or tell me about the refugee experience, tell me something connected to the research question. And if it is participatory action research, we agree with them what's the research question. So a photo video about your perception of the project, something you really like about this project, you dislike. For example, if you want to do the evaluation of one project, something you have learned, something that's representative. This is, for example, one example we did that I showed you in one project we developed in Portugal. And then the most important, we ask the children to do a narrative explaining the photo video. It's not just the photo, it's also the photo with the video, with the narrative, or the video with the narrative, and then we do the analysis of this narrative in the same way that I can use LST, for example, to make the analysis of semi-structured interviews. We did the analysis of this narrative. And then the children must explain the meaning of the photo or the video they have taken. A research assistant can then write a narrative, copy and compile all this narrative. So, for example, we did a project in Portugal. The project was to make sure that children living with difficult circumstances, because they were living in situations close to poverty, or in situations like they were living in orphanages, they have access to horse-related activities. I don't know in your country, but in so many countries, so in Europe, horse activities are for middle class or high class people. People living in poverty has no access because it's expensive. So one way to do, we create a project in Portugal and Italy. We create social enterprises to ensure that these people, the children especially, can participate, although they had not the money, so that we created free services. We asked them, do a photo or video about the project, and that's representative for you. That it represents for you what means for you to be part of this project. That was called Writing Together. What this project is giving to you, what you like, what you dislike, whatever you want to express about this project, please feel free to do it and write a narrative. And this is the narrative of Simó. I always wanted to write a horse, but I never had the opportunity. So you see, from the beginning, this narrative is telling about social exclusion, because every time I get on the horse, I feel good, because here there are no evaluation tests, responsibilities that stress me. So you see how the children immediately start talking about their life, and it's not good what he's talking about, because he's talking that he's stressed, he feels all the time evaluated with a lot of responsibility. It's one of the few things in my week that I don't want to overtake, and I really want to be there because I like it a lot. So we are ensuring that he's really enjoying the project, and that's really a meaningful activity for this child that he really wants to do, and it's one special event on his week. But we need to reflect the rest of the week is not as nice or pleasant. So he's talking about the stress. So he's giving a lot of info that we really need to transform that life for sure. We have to do something about that also. It's a feeling that cannot be put on paper. I took this photo because it's the path I have to walk to camp. It's the entrance of Todos a Galope. This is a small descending path that I do when I arrive. The one that awakens that peak of happiness that reminds me that not everything is bad in life. So you see how powerful is this technique, how from this photo, he's telling really a lot of things about his life that for a child is not difficult, it's not easy to communicate directly. He's saying that really, he's thinking that life, almost everything is bad. He's confronting stress, responsibilities, so many things they don't like. And this activity is powerful, is bringing him happiness. So when we do the evaluation of this project is meaningful for the child, it's bringing him happiness, but especially also is giving us so much information about the life of this child. And he's almost, you see how he's almost denouncing, not through the photo, but especially through the narrative, how are the conditions of life, stress, and not everything is bad. So you see how powerful it can be. Personally, when I'm working with this technique, it reminds me when I was working in Kosovo, for example, or in Bosnia, working with children survivors of war, and we were using drawings, and we asked the children to make a drawing. We were not asking photos, we were asking drawings, and we were asking just, for example, topics like Jakova. I was working in a city in Bosnia in Kosovo, called Jakova, and we asked to do a drawing about Jakova. And this was one of the drawings that the children were doing. And you see it was about the massacres that took place in Jakova. I felt so sad, and this was a narrative. We were also asking narrative. I was scared. I started crying. At 5 in the morning, we went to the basement. I was afraid in the heart because I thought my turn to die had come. So you see how these visual ways promote powerful emotional expressions. It's difficult for a child just to say it directly, but when you do a drawing and he starts reflecting and he transfers the feelings to the drawing, and then he asks a narrative, so he's aware of what he's drawing about, and he starts reflecting about the situation. You see how powerful it is. And what I want to say is the powerfulness of the visual media. So it's not just that Photovoice can be a powerful research tool, but also I think it's a very powerful way to promote this emotional expression, and it's part of the therapeutic process. In the same way that it was very hard to see these kind of drawings we saw at the beginning, can you imagine that it was amazing to see how these drawings were changing? At the end, we saw this kind of drawings and this kind of narrative. Finally, after massacres, freedom arrived. Beautiful Kosovo flower are blossoming again. Children will play, have fun, and sing again. So I reinforce that these audiovisual techniques are really powerful just to promote emotions, the expression of these emotions. So, and it's not just that we can just do this technique in one session. We ask one photo, one video, and then we ask a narrative. And of course, then the children share with the rest of the class or the rest of the team, or if you are working with a group of adults, they share the photos and they also share the narrative. And also you can organize our exhibition, is that you can go further with this technique. For example, in the project Interact, we were working with refugee communities, and our colleagues from Karolinska Institute in Sweden developed Photovoice with a group of refugees who had disabilities, and they not did one photo session or video. They did 8 sessions. Each week, the refugee group with disabilities meet and decide the theme, the topic of the week they wanted to reflect about. So, for example, one week was about the stigma. Another week was about the barriers they confronted the community, because it's not a universal design. The next week is what was the meaning to have a refugee status and also having a disability. So each week they were deciding the topic. During the week, they were doing the photos and the narrative. Next session, they were sharing these photos, this narrative in the group, and then they were discussing, proposing, and just making agreement about the next topic for this week. And they were doing this during 8 weeks. And the product was amazing, really. So, for example, if you go to our Interact web, you can find this Photovoice experience, and you have the materials. And of course, you can do a powerful photo exhibition. What I want to say with this is that you can play with this technique. We can make one session, asking one video, one photo, or 2 videos, 2 photos, one with a narrative, or we can escalate for 8 sessions, 6 sessions, 12 sessions, depends on the project. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Today I just wanted to, I have short time, so I wanted to do a brief introduction. So it's gonna be my pleasure to be in contact with you. You have any doubts, any questions, we can support. Here you have my email. And also you have my portfolio. It's in Spanish, but also in English, so you can find a lot of these projects. And thank you so much for your attention. I hope it has been something meaningful and useful for you, and have a nice day.